Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today to learn more about Markmonitor China Registrar. We're excited to have you with us and hope you find today's webinar informative and helpful. Before we get started, we have just a few housekeeping notes. This presentation will be recorded and sent to you via email along with a link to the transcript.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heidi Zhang from Markmonitor. I'm very happy to have all of you here today to hear the sharing about Markmonitor China Registrar. Markmonitor China Registrar is a young project. We started a couple of years ago, and we actually have successfully launched the service. So today I'm going to walk you through about the background of Markmonitor China Registrar and then about what we have done to get the whole project started and what happened in the process and then where we are now, and then about the future plans for the China Registrar. So first, a little bit more about myself. I'm Heidi Zhang, head of Markmonitor China. I'm based in Beijing, China. I joined Markmonitor for 6.5 years. And I'm also in charge of the Markmonitor APAC industry relations. Let's look at the agenda today. It's about the Markmonitor China Registrar. We will cover why Markmonitor China Registrar came to be, and then how it happened, and then what we did to start the service and launch the service, and then where we are now, and then the next steps. So as I said, Markmonitor China project is a young project. It started back in 2017 because in 2017, November, MIT is short for the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, is the highest authority of internet in China. So they announced the new version of the Internet and Domain Regulations. Because the last version was in 2004, after 13 years, the regulations and requirements were outdated. That's why MIT announced the new one in 2017, and it set very clear about the roles and responsibilities for different players on the internet. For example, the root management and the registries, registrars, and even registrants. So it's very clear, and that is the latest regulation for now. All the registries, the domain industry need to follow that. And in the new regulation, the only thing that affects the internet user most is the ICP filing requirement. Because if a company or an individual, if you have a website in China, in mainland of China, resolving in mainland of China, then you have to apply the ICP portal. So that's a number in the bottom of the website, and it shows that you have informed the government you are operating a website. With the new regulation, if the individual or the company, if you have a website live in China, but you don't have ICP, then you are in compliance with the regulations. And if so, MIT will do auto check by themselves, or some other people can report on the in compliance. If MIT find that out, there is a risk that the website will be shut down. So that is a very new change. A lot of companies really see this new regulation seriously. And although MIT gave companies and the internet a lot of time to adjust, all the registrars, registries, and internet users, they're trying their best to stay in compliance. And then because the regulation came out in November 2017, and there is also a background information that MIT actually delegated the power to the provincial communications administration. So because MIT is the central management in China, and so for registries, they still have the right to license, but for registrars, all registrars go to their own local provincial administration for the license. So with that happening, a lot of provincial administration, they were also in a position of learning because they need to domain name is a very niche industry. They also need to learn and about the policies, about the rules, and also different business models. That also took some time. So there was a lack of license back in 2018 and until 2020. Let's move on. Oh, sorry. So with the policy came out and we didn't really have our license in hand as an interim plan. Markmonitor chose eName to work with as a transition plan. Some of you may have been working with eName or with your DPAs to manage domain names at eName for some time. eName is a China local registrar. They have their license in hand. And so eName really valued the partnership with Markmonitor. They gave us the highest level of support. They designed their international team to work with us. And also they have also gave us the special communication channel to escalate emergencies or critical questions. We also very appreciate eName's partnership. And eName even designed a very unique compliance process mechanisms because eName, from my understanding, when eName receive compliance emails or notice, they will just take actions immediately to either to suspend domain names or forward the notice to the registrar and take actions. But for all Markmonitor domain names, they will notify Markmonitor first. And without Markmonitor's consent, they will never take any action to our domain names. So in the past a couple of years, eName, all our domain names with eName were totally safe, and our clients didn't really feel any inconvenience or bad feeling about managing domain names somewhere else. But it's a transition plan. We still need to develop our own solution because getting our own license is always our target. And then in the meantime, with working with eName, at the same time, we started to do the investigation and to see how we can have our own license. I still remember it was very difficult at the very beginning because everyone was at a loss and don't really know how to deal with that, even because there is no case foreign registrar can have MIT license in China. No one, some people even say that is not possible. But that is also the time when I joined Markmonitor. This is my first project, and this is like my baby project. And I talked with the team, and I told them a lot of times that understanding is always the key, because China is a very big country, and I also understand that the policies are very complicated. I try to explain to the team that each rule, each policy, there is a story in the background. MIT doesn't really make policies out of nothing. There must be something happen, and then they ask the registrars to do something, like real name verification, like keeping the data and the record and everything. And sometimes we also need to share the business data to MIT. All the regulations, all the requirements, it came for a reason. So we took quite some time to align with the team to understand what exactly MIT is asking the registrar to do to stay in compliance. And then we started the system designing. Because this is not only a little registrar, because Markmonitor China is a corporate registrar, the business nature is different as a retail registrar, and also Markmonitor China registrar need to stay in contact with Markmonitor Inc. The two registrars, they are not completely independent. They need somehow talk with each other and share the data from some point. So we spent quite some time discuss how we can make that happen and the system is going to be like, and then we have the initial design. And with that, we went to the Shanghai CA. Shanghai CA is short for the Shanghai Communications Administration. That is the provincial authority for the license. So we talked with Shanghai CA for a lot of times, explaining what our business model is and why we designed the system like that. And Shanghai CA also gave us a lot of suggestions and recommendations. So we did a lot of adjustment and again. And finally, we have the final typology and the plan. And then after that, we spent almost 1.5 years in system developing and internal testing. And then we registered a couple of domain names for testing purpose to make sure that everything is working as we planned and as we talked with Shanghai CA. And then it came as the on-site examination. On-site examination is actually Shanghai CA will actually come to our Shanghai office and see our team and talk about our roles in the team. And then they will look at our system one function by function. It's very strict because they want to make sure that the system is developed as designed and all the critical functions are working. For example, like the data storage need to be in China and the real name verification is happening. And they also want us to show all the demos of different steps of registering a domain name. We actually did the on-site examination for 3 times. So each time, sometimes they gave us some feedbacks or suggestions to make the step more clear or make it more easy for the client to use. So they gave us a lot of feedbacks, and then we make improvements, and then we invite them over again for the on-site examination. Luckily, we passed in the end. So that was 2020 October. So I still remember when we had on-site examination, I was like 7 months pregnant. And in October, I had my little daughter. And then our license also came in the same month. I was extremely happy. And I was kidding to my team that if I knew that the baby would come together with the license, I would have had the baby a couple of years ago. And it wouldn't be that long. But 2020 is a very good year for me because we had the license in hand. This is my baby project in Markmonitor, and I have my little girl. So we can see in this picture, it explains clear about the timeline. In 2017 and 2018, as the new policy came out, and then we did the research, and we started the preparation of the system and internal discussions. And in 2019, we had our Shanghai company founded, and then we got it accredited by ICANN. We had our own IANA ID. It's a very independent registrar, and we have our system developed. In 2020, we had the on-site examination, and we had the license in hand. And then in 2021, it's a very important year because back in 2020, we had MIT license, and we signed the accreditation agreement with VeriSign. So that means Shanghai Registrar is accredited for .com and .net registrations, but not CN. We understand that .cn is very important in China. A lot of clients, they are using Markmonitor services to manage CN domain names. So .cn is definitely critical. But CNIC is the registry for .cn as the China Internet Network Information Center. Back then, CNIC was in a process of a lot of internal changes. So they were very slow with accreditations and communications. We did a lot of work to make the accreditation happen. In the end of 2021, we finally had the accreditation in hand. And that means we are totally ready to launch the service for China Registrar. And after a couple of years preparation in 2022, we finally have the service launched. It's easy to say that we launched the service, and we spent almost 7 to 8 months to start that because there are a lot of work in the background. Because in order to launch the service, we need to make sure that our China registrar stay in compliance with the local regulations. For example, like the data report to MIT to make sure that is happening every week. And also the system is running very stable and everything. And then security guarantee. Security is very critical. I understand that for our clients, security is the top thing that you have in mind to choose Markmonitor. For Markmonitor China Registrar, I got a lot of questions because people may think that you have Markmonitor Inc. and Markmonitor China Registrar is small. Is the system the same? The engineers, the technical resources, and the stable of the system, are they the same? And my answer is always yes and yes. Because security, we also see security as the most important thing in our work. As I know, Markmonitor China is actually the first and only self-developed foreign registrar in China. We design our system all by ourselves. And to be honest, in the process, we did have a couple of service providers in China reached out to us saying that they could do the coding for us or working with us, providing some kind of technical solutions. But we declined all their reaching out because we think that we need our system to be independent and wholly owned by ourselves. It's the hardest way, but it's the safest way because I remember I don't really remember who said that, but in Markmonitor, I totally agree with that. Some people say Markmonitor do the thing that is when Markmonitor make decisions, sometimes it may not be the most cost effective, but it definitely should be the most right. We'll only do the right thing. So design and develop our own system is definitely one of that. And the China registrar share the same technical resources with Markmonitor Inc. registrar. The system, the engineers, the testing resources, developing resources, and everything. The only difference is our China registrar is deployed on AWS China because that's the MIT requirements. The system has to be in mainland of China, and then we worked with AWS China to make that happen. And all the data are also stored in AWS China. And then, so because as I mentioned just now, the two registrars need to talk with each other because we're serving the same clients. We don't really want the clients to feel inconvenient as using two systems and two registrars. So we make sure that the two registrars can share the business data to each other and then talk to each other, share the contact template and things. And then it comes to the operational process. We have our own internal trainings and sharings to make sure that all DPAs are aware of the China registrar is ready and how they can register domain names under the China registrar and do the real name verification because the real name verification is done by our Shanghai team. So we have our internal communications a lot on that. And then there's the policy tracking. In China, sometimes the policies change a lot, and so we make sure that we attend important industry meetings, and we have regular face-to-face meetings with the Shanghai CA to make sure that we have the latest news about the changes or updates. And then it comes to the transfers, because there are a lot of domain names managed by e-name, and when our the China registrar is ready, we think it's time to transfer the domain names over to let the clients can manage their domain names in one portal. We registered a couple of domain names and transferred by ourselves to make tests and then make sure that the transfer is very smooth and safe because all the domain names they need to transfer to China registrar is high traffic and very important because most of them have the ICP portal. So we totally understand how important that is, and we make we actually communicated with eName about the transfers to make them prepared for the upcoming transfers. And internally, we also our Shanghai team also did a lot to prepare for the transfers. So for now, most of the domain names have transferred to Markmonitor Shanghai, and only a few domain names are still with eName for different reasons. One is that the TLD may not be supported in Markmonitor Shanghai like .co or some other extensions. And still, there are a few clients, they still have their domain names at eName for their internal problems, but we have been communicating with them to urge them transfer their domain names over. When I say the two registrars can talk with each other and we try to make the domain management easier in one portal as to the client, if you look at this picture, it explains better. So you can see from the very front, the clients are using the Markmonitor portal as always. The portal stays the same. It didn't really change anything. You still use your own account and password to log in, and then you have access to both registrars. So you can see the portal is backed with Markmonitor Inc. and Markmonitor China, the two registrars. Markmonitor Inc., the registrar system, is as usual as the previous one, and Markmonitor China, we have all our own registrar system on AWS China. The only difference is this Markmonitor China system, we have the different data sorted in different bucket. So you can see this business data is the information you can see in Whois that is open, and that part can be shared with Markmonitor Inc. And then for the system backup, like the contingency plan and everything, it still needs to be in China, on AWS China and in China. And then real name verification, all the contacts, IDs, phone numbers, address. When we finish the real name verification, those data stay in China. And so you can see this is more clear how the two registrars can work with each other. So it's been more than 2 years after we launched the service. So you can see in this where we are now. We are a very independent registrar. Our AN ID is 3838, and we have our own Shanghai office and company. And then our clients and DPAs can choose between Markmonitor Inc. and Markmonitor Shanghai to manage their domain names. And it's, as mentioned, Markmonitor China Registrar is a totally self-developed registrar. The system is very robust, and it's interlinked with Markmonitor Inc. to make the domain portfolio management easier for the clients and DPAs. And then for the China registrar, we now have 3 members in the team. 2 of them are DPAs and specialists. They're in Shanghai. So if you have anything you need support from DPA, you can always reach out to your DPA and they will talk with each other, and you can get the support and guidelines. And myself, I'm based in Beijing, and I'm in charge of the government relations and the policies. And the more localized services, we are working on getting more services, more localized services to our clients. I will talk about that later in another slide. So right now we have about more than 1,800 domain names under Markmonitor China Registrar, and nearly more than 95% of them are actively resolving and have ICP recordals. And for the TLD coverage, now we have .com, .net, and .top, and 3 other IDN TLDs. So I also got the question that why we don't really provide services for other TLDs, like new GTLDs. The answer is actually, we also want that happen, and that is also our plan. Because Markmonitor is the first foreign registrar to actually providing services. So the Shanghai CA is very hard to make that happen. The Shanghai CA was very conservative, so they want to give us, they want to have like a probation. it's a it's for the first a couple of years, they want to see our business very healthy, and we do business as in compliance and as promised. So they want to see that. And maybe after that, we can ask them to grant more TLDs into our service. So with that being said, our next steps are TLD coverage extension is definitely the top one. I actually went to the Shanghai CA last week. I mentioned that about having more TLDs in our business scope, and they are very open to that. And also for the license, the registrar license have a term for 5 years. So next year, 2025, we are hitting our renewal timeline. So next year we will have our license renewed. I also talked with the Shanghai CA to learn about the process and all the like the documents, and is there going to be another round of on-site examination, and what kind of things that we need to prepare, because we want to make sure that the process is very smooth. And the Shanghai CA said is very similar to the initial application, and probably they want to make it simplified for us. So I guess that's a very good news for us. And the last one is the ICP reportal service. ICP is very important for live websites in China, and for some companies, especially companies outside of China, it's a little bit challenging to find the very detailed and accurate requirements and process guidelines to have their ICP. So Markmonitor is looking into that, and we plan to offer the ICP reportal services later this year or early next. And then we will have a separate webinar about ICP service then. If you are interested, you can pay attention to our emails, and you can also reach out to our DPAs to ask about the updates and progress. ICP reportal is not only for websites right now, because the mobile internet is very popular. Apps on the phone is also need ICP reportal right now in China. That is also challenging. So a lot of companies are right now working on that. If you have any questions or you want to learn more about the requirements or background or anything, you can just reach out to Markmonitor team. That is all for the Markmonitor China Registrar. Now I think I'm going to see if you have any questions. So I got one question. Do you think the policy and regulatory environment in China is getting more difficult and tight, or are they staying about the same? That is a very good question. So I remember back in 2017 when the new regulation just came out, we had a very difficult time for the entire industry. Back in 2017, I was in a backend service provider company. That was very hard for registries and registrars, because the policy just came out and a lot of people didn't really know what to do. And even the MIT, they just made the new policies. But a lot of questions, they need further explanations, but MIT didn't really have the answer. So we went through a very difficult time, but for now, I think everything is very clear. The new regulations is in place, and all the regulations for different players on the internet are also executing as they should be. So I think it's not going to be more difficult. It's very stable right now. If you need any instructions or guidelines, read the regulations or talk with the authorities, and they should have the answers. And I got another question. Do you only offer .cn to China registrants or any other MIT approved TLDs as well? Yes, yeah. Right now we only offer .cn in China, except .com and .net, but we plan to cover more TLDs later, because that need the approval from Shanghai CA. But that is also something we want to see to happen. we will try to make it come true probably next year. I got another one. We have some domain names registered with Alibaba Registrar. Can it be transferred to Markmonitor China entity? Yes, yes. We have a lot of cases transferring domain names from all different registrars, either in China or outside of China. So we're going to have another webinar about how brand registries operate in China next week. It's also related to the China regulations and policies. If you are interested in that, please join. We will have guest speakers from ZDS and Central NIC. Both of them are very experienced in registry operating and very familiar with the local regulations. So we will talk about more in the local regulations and from the registry operation perspective. And especially for the brand registry, if you want to actually using your domain names to register second level domain names, you also need to have work with brand registrar. I got another question. Non-Chinese companies looking at this as an opportunity to reach Chinese internet users, or are there other reasons to use this service? I think the short answer is yes, because the Markmonitor China registrar is not only for the Chinese clients, it's for the global clients. If you have, it's for the integrity of your domain portfolio worldwide. For example, global companies, you may have a business in China and then you have a .cn domain name or .com domain name website in China, then you will need to use Markmonitor China Registrar service. So you can see China Registrar, Markmonitor China Registrar is a part of Markmonitor entire service. And the Markmonitor entire service is composed by Markmonitor Inc. and Markmonitor China. Although Markmonitor Inc. is very big and Markmonitor China is relatively small, but it's also very important to make sure that you can have all your portfolio in one place and in compliance with the local regulations. I got another one. Do I have to use Markmonitor China to register my brands .cn domain names, or only once we are ready to launch our website? So that's a very good question. But it's totally depending on your own discretion. It's because different companies have their own situations. When you want to register domain name and when you want to activate the domain name as business decisions. If you don't really have the website ready and you don't really want it to resolve in China, then you can still have your .cn domain names with Markmonitor Inc. It's totally fine and it's in compliance. If you want to have your website in China run, then probably you need to think of transferring your domain name or registering domain name with Markmonitor China. For the ICP service, we're going to have our webinar in sometime in early 2025. If you're interested in that, or if you have any questions you want to hear in the webinar, please let us know. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.